Hello everyone, shalom, welcome. How have you guys been this last week? Lots of craziness in the world. Sometimes we have to make a stop and be thankful for what we have here in Canada, right? And the fact that we can have some peace on a Thursday afternoon to study a little bit of Torah. That's always good for the soul. To get inspired, to get refreshed by ancient words that have lots of current meaning. That's what Torah is for the Jewish people. The words are always the same, but we always find in the Torah the inspiration we need in every generation. So I welcome everyone. Mary Nason gets the prize for being the first one to write something in the chat today. So if you're there, please don't be shy. Type your message. Louis Stern. Hello, Louis. Welcome to the class. Great to have you here. And let's see, who else? Who else is around? Oh, wait a minute. And I'm streaming on this ultra low latency from YouTube. That means that it should be pretty fast for me to read your messages. Dr. Debbie Pollack, hello. Good afternoon. Great to have you here. Well, I know maybe some of you are watching on the website and you don't have a chance to type in the chat. It's always good to find a way to connect directly from the YouTube channel so you can use the chat. And if you log in, and also it's very important, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you will be always notified whenever we go live or whenever we upload some content to the internet. So remember, even for this very class, remember, like the video, leave us a comment. You may want to share it in your own page and, of course, subscribe to our channel. Debbie Paula, can you use Zoom to participate more? Yeah, the only thing with Zoom is that if you don't have the link, you're out, right? It's and then with the microphones, but yeah, maybe. Shelly, you have trouble signing in this morning, huh? But again, it's you're back on. I can read your messages, and welcome to the class. Okay, so let's study. Oh, by the way, so you see now that I think I can bring you guys with the chat here. Look at this. Huh. Look at this. I can embed the chat on the class now. So everybody can see what other people are writing. Pretty cool. So let's go into the class. We are studying today Parasha Shemot, the very beginning of the book of Exodus. Last week we finished the book of Genesis. Ended with the death of Jacob, the death of Joseph, and now this is a new generation. Not only for the Jewish people, but also for the Egyptians. People who didn't even remember what happened with Jacob, with Joseph, and how Joseph saved the people of Egypt from one of the worst famines that they ever experienced in the Middle East. At least that's the way it's described in the Torah, right? So now we are in the new generation, and it says specifically that this generation didn't remember it, and the people of Israel were made slaves. That's right from the beginning. We know that the Israelites were enslaved by the Egyptian, and eventually we know what happened, right? Moses is going to be the deliverer. God purposely chose Moses to do that. And we're going to study a little bit about what did Moses really do to deserve to be the deliverer and one of the greatest prophets we ever had. But before that, we should remember that Moses grew up as an Egyptian. He was rescued. Remember, Pharaoh wanted to kill all the males, all the baby males, and Moses' parents saved him by putting him in this little basket, and that was in the river Nile. And Moses' sister kept an eye on him, but the Pharaoh's daughter actually saw baby Moses in the river, and she took Moses as her own son. She adopted that baby boy that was Moses and took him to palace. So Moses grew up as an Egyptian. But for what the Torah says, it looks like he actually knew at one point that he was an Israelite or a Hebrew, the way they were calling back in the day. He knew. How do we know that? Let's jump into the Torah. You will see how the Torah describes this situation. It says, "And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out to his brothers." You see, they said to his brothers, so he knew. "And he saw their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian man smiting a Hebrew man, one of his brothers." How do you say, smiting or smiting? I don't know, smiting, I guess. He was hitting, by the way. He was hitting one of his brothers. And yeah. Now, again, this verse is giving us lots of information about Moses. First, that he was aware of his origins. And second, that it was a point that he started to have an internal conflict. And I believe this is a kind of conflict that at one point we all have, in the sense that, thank you, Shelley, in the sense that we all have to choose, sooner or later, comfort versus doing the right thing. I would say that in different ways it happens pretty often, that we have to choose between comfort and doing the right thing. Sometimes it's a daily choice. It could be in the morning, you know, the alarm clock goes off. You know you have to wake up. Otherwise you will be late. So you have this conversation inside your head. Should I stay 10 more minutes in bed? Or should I get up of bed and get ready to do what I have to do? Right? Staying in bed is choosing comfort. Getting out of bed, even if you are a little bit tired, is choosing to do the right thing, even though it's not comfortable. You're embracing discomfort, but towards a goal. It happens all the time. It looks like Moses had this conversation within himself for a while. But eventually, we are going to see that there was a before and after for Moses. And he finally made a decision. So far, he was choosing comfort. But this is the beginning when he started wondering if maybe he's been making the wrong decisions for a while. Okay? So, we say here, he saw this Egyptian hitting the Hebrew man. But the rabbis are actually, what's the word? Pleasantly surprised to the fact that Moses actually took action and went out of the palace to check on his brothers. Let's see what Rashi has to say here. He said, he set his eyes and heart to share in their distress. Why would Rashi say that? He said the Hebrew phrase of he saw their burdens is vayar besivlotam. You see, let's go back here. Look. Vayar besivlotam. That's what Rashi is explaining here. Okay? But the more correct Hebrew for this word should be vayar et sivlotam, where their burdens is the direct object of his seeing. But the Torah words are vayar be sivlotam, which is subtle change, which means that he saw into their sufferings, meaning he identified with their sufferings. In other words, he felt that it was, I can't accept this thing that my brothers are suffering, and here I am. I have this easy life in the Egyptian palace. For a while, Moses was okay with that, but it was a time that where he couldn't handle it anymore. He couldn't handle. He had this sense of belonging that make him make some sacrifices to help his brothers. And sometimes it happens when we see injustice in the world. Sometimes we get it easy, but we know that sometimes there are things that we can do to help correct injustice. Might be discomfort, it might be uncomfortable. Maybe that you may have to do something. Maybe you have to open your wallet. And it's also another source of discomfort, but it's the right thing to do. Those are the choices we have to make every day. Sometimes we choose comfort and we go back to bed. Sometimes we embrace discomfort and we do the right thing. So here Moses did the right thing when he identified with the pain of his brothers. The Midrash will say it. What does "and he saw" mean? It means he saw their burdens and he cried and said, woe unto you, people of Israel, would that I could die for you. For there is no harsher work than working with cement. And Moses would bend his shoulder and help each and every one of them. The first step he took was to try to directly help them with their work, with their task. That was a difficult one. And this is one of the reasons, because we are going to see there were many reasons where Moses ended up being the deliverer. But this was one. The fact that being a prince of Egypt, he went and did the lowest of the tasks, which is to get dirty and help these slaves with this harsh work. So that was reason number one, why Moses was such a great character in our history. Any comments? I see the chat is quiet all of a sudden. If you have any comments, you can type it there and everybody can see. So we invite you to type your comments or your questions. We'll give you a second. Okay. Empathy. Great word, Shelley. Thank you. Empathy. He had empathy for all he saw. And it's not that he didn't have it before. He never did anything about it. He was just suppressing the feeling. And again, this is such a relevant Parasha. Well, I guess every verse of the Parasha, if you know how to read it, is relevant. Because these are things that happen to all of us. We all feel empathy, or most of us. I guess if you're a sociopath, you don't feel empathy, right? I guess that's what I learned. But I believe we all feel empathy. But then we suppress it. We suppress the feeling. We don't want to deal with it because as soon as you embrace the feeling, it's uncomfortable. And we run away for discomfort and we run towards comfort. That's human nature. Moses went against human nature, and because of that, he did great things. Moses even killed an Egyptian. Aha! Yes. But you are, yes, Debbie, we are going to see that in a minute. It's coming. Yes, there is a huge difference between sympathy and empathy. Okay, Shelley, can you elaborate a little bit? We'll give you a second for you to type your explanation. Why you feel that this sympathy and empathy are different. I would like to see it. Okay, I'll give you a minute to type while we continue with the sympathy, feel sorry. Empathy, feel the other person's pain. Okay. Yes. Put yourself someone else's shoes. That's correct. Okay. So let's continue. with the next text. It says, here we have a fine picture of the future leader, highly sensitive to the pain of others, deeply emphatic, benevolent, and actively involved. Wow. Great, great characters. Yeah, Paul. Yeah, I hear you. These features characterize Moses. The Torah leaves no room for doubt as to why this man was chosen for his historic and awesome task. Before Moses is chosen by God, the Torah relates 3 incidents regarding Moses getting involved with the suffering of others. And this is the interesting thing. So this is the interesting thing. The struggle between Jew and non-Jew. You see, this is what happened here. Moses saw that an Egyptian was beating a Jew, and he intervened. Okay, but then you can say, well, okay, that's unfair because he intervened when a Jew was being hit, right? Of course, because he was one of her brother, but doesn't mean that he cares about everybody. Well, hold on a minute. Let's keep reading. Then he intervened in a fight between a Jew and a Jew when 2 Jewish people were fighting. And then he also intervened between a Gentile against a Gentile. When that will be a little bit ahead when he has to run away from Egypt after killing the Egyptian that David Pollack mentioned. And then he sees 2 Gentiles fighting, and he intervened. Yep. So these, despite Moses' unqualified, unlimited, and non-discriminatory appreciation for the pain of others, it also shows his proactive involvement in redeeming them from their suffering. This distinctive moral trait, the distinctive moral trait of a leader in Israel. Okay, so let's continue with the next text, because when Moses saw this episode of the Egyptian hitting the Hebrew, you see, something changed on Moses. Look what happened right after. It says, he turned this way and that way, seeing that there was no man, he struck down the Egyptian and hit him in the sand. Right? So, this is very interesting. He took the action to defend the Hebrew. But the rabbis ask something very interesting. Try to imagine the situation. You are there, you're Moses. You see the Egyptian beating the slave. It's totally unfair. You feel the suffering, and you have to do something. You want to intervene, but you have this conflict. Should I do it? Maybe I shouldn't intervene. Well, but it's my brother suffering. Yeah, but I grew up in palace. You have this internal conflict. And the Torah says here something very interesting. It said that Moses turned this way, that way. It says, seeing that there was no man. But what the Torah doesn't say is what did he see? What did he see when he went this way and that way? And I heard once a very interesting interpretation of this. He looked to one side, he saw the palace. He looked at the other side, he saw the residences of the slaves where they were living. So he looks at one side, he sees his palace, his Egyptian education, his Egyptian friends, his Egyptian family. He looks at the other side, and he looks at the Israelites, the Jews, the Hebrews. So now what? It's exactly the life of Moses up to this point. It's split in half. One side the Egyptians, the other side the Hebrews. But the Torah continues, and it says, seeing that there was no man. It's interesting because the Torah doesn't say ki ein Adam, like there was no human being around. It said ki ein ish. There was no person, in the sense that Moses didn't feel that he was a person, an ish. He was in a limbo. He didn't have an identity. He didn't know who he was. He has this constant fight inside. He had to make a decision to be whole so he could feel like a person. So what did he do? He made a decision. He cut ties with the Egyptian side. So he struck down the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. So yeah, you can understand this literally, right? That this is a fight, but it's also a beautiful allegory of the fight that was inside Moses. He has the Egyptian and the Hebrew fighting against each other. So what he did, because he couldn't continue like this any longer, he killed the Egyptian within himself and he buried him. So now he fully embraced his Jewish roots. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful comment. So let's see. Dr. Debbie Pollock said at the end of the Parasha, Moses questioned God as why he's not doing something with the Jews suffering. Perhaps he felt as though he himself was being hit. Yep. The Jews felt the pain of another Jew more. Yeah. But it's interesting. We are going to see a little bit of this Moses arguing with God. It's because Moses, at the end of the day, he was a human being, and he was still developing or understanding the concept of faith in God. When God told Moses that he was the one, he didn't want to accept it. He couldn't believe that it was him. And this is something that always fascinating me, because I think we are all in that situation, that sometimes we have a situation in life where you feel that you are not qualified to take it. Has it ever happened to you? That something that you weren't necessarily looking for, but you are presented with an opportunity because sometimes somebody sees something on you that you don't see it. They see a talent, they see a potential that you cannot see it. So they said, take this responsibility. I think you're going to be great. And you feel that is more than you can chew. So what do? Well, perhaps Moses, at the end of the day, what he understood, it's sometimes you have to train yourself to open your mouth a little wider so you can chew when you have in front of you. And then you realize, oh, I could do it. It's just we have to learn to have a little faith in ourselves as well. Yeah, we have faith in God, but you have to have faith in yourself. God will never put you in a situation if God is not sure that you have the tools to succeed into that task. So let's go back a little bit to the chat here. Debbie, you said, I read that one of the reasons that Moses didn't get into Israel was because he was doubting God in redeeming the Jews. God told him, I will take them out of Egypt. Never heard that one. Never heard that one. Maybe. Never heard that explanation. So, but this is, I like the thing that Moses actually, this is Exodus chapter 2, verse 12 is the point when Moses decided to bury the Egyptian within himself. And of course, that came with consequences. Sometimes when you do the right thing, there are going to be consequences of that. It doesn't mean that you have a guaranteed, perfectly peaceful tomorrow about that. Sometimes it means that it's going to get a little bumpy. before you can see the results that they are in store for you. Yeah. Shalom, Majid, welcome to the class. So let's continue with the next text. Okay, so this is Moses after killing the Egyptians. Let's go back to the pshat, to the literal meaning of the text. Let's say that he actually killed the physical Egyptian, and the consequences of that is now there is a tag on Moses' head. He has to run away from Egypt because he did something that was against the Egyptian law, and he runs away, and he ended up being in the land of Midian. In the land of Midian, he's going to meet his future wife, Zipporah, and his wife's father-in-law is Yitro. Okay, so this is what happened. He was already there with the house of Yitro. Yitro really liked Moses. I said, yes, I will give you my daughter in marriage to you. So maybe you can work with me. You can take care of my sheep. Okay, and another thing, you will see this all the time in the Torah, where people chosen by God are usually shepherds. Another great quality, because it means that you are able to take care of others other than you. In this case, animals. So in the sense that they were saying that in the sense that he was saying that if you can take care of animals, you can actually take care of human beings. And there are many midrashim of how Moses was running after every animal out there, and it was a beautiful thing, beautiful thing. Okay, so let's see what happened here. Now Moses was tending the sheep of Yitro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, leading the flock to the far side of the desert. He came to the mountains of God, to Horeb. The angel of Adonai appeared to him in a fire blazing from the middle of a bush. He looked and saw that although the bush was flaming with fire, yet the bush was not being burned up. Moses said, I'm going to go over there and see this amazing sight and find out why the bush isn't being burned up. When Adonai saw that he had gone over to see, God called him from the middle of the bush, Moshe, Moshe. And he answered, here I am. This is a very famous, the very famous episode of the very famous story of the burning bush. You may remember that from the Torah. And now it's interesting. Yeah, Hineni, right? This is something that also you will see when God chooses somebody. Usually the answer is or should be Hineni. Here I am. And it's something, you may remember the Hineni from the Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah liturgy, when we sing Hineni before the Musaf service. It's a very profound prayer. Now, what some rabbis are asking here is this question. I actually wrote it for you so you can see. Why didn't God appear to Moses after his courageous act of smiting the Egyptian, or after he reproached two Hebrews who were fighting? Why did God wait until the episode of the burning bush to say, Moses, you are the one? God could have appeared to Moses right away, when Moses was the one who was able to stop this fight and to defend the slave, even if that means that he will put his own life at risk. But no, God didn't appear to Moses then. Nothing, not even a word. Not even a word saying, Moses, you did great. Nothing. Until this moment. What was so special about the burning bush? that as a reward, God appeared to Moses. Let's see. David Pollack said, did Adam say Hineni? Did he say Hineni? I don't remember if he said it. I don't think so. And David also said, he saw that Moses was going after his sheep that was leading him to the burning bush. I don't know. Oh yeah, I know what you mean, David. That's the midrash. That's the midrash. There is a midrash that Moses saw the burning bush because he was running after one of the sheep that was lost. So the value there, as Moses was able to again embrace discomfort for one sheep. He had hundreds of sheep, hundreds. He didn't have to go for that one. That's what the Midrash says. You know, nobody will have judged Moses for coming back without one sheep, because those are sometimes things that happen. When you have these big flocks, one could get lost. But Moses didn't want to have any one of the sheep lost. And also that is the signature of a great leader. The fact that you can go out of the way to help everyone. Not someone, but everyone. Great characteristics. And because Moses did that, he was rewarded with this amazing miracle that it was the burning bush. And let's see if I can find here is the midrash. Here's the midrash. It's from Midrash Rabbi, Debbie. It says like this. One, when Moshe was a shepherd for his father-in-law Yitro in the deserts of Midian, a small lamb ran away from the rest of the flock. Moshe ran after her to catch her. The lamb found a shady place with a spring of water. She rested there and drank, slaked her thirst. When Moshe found her there drinking, he exclaimed, I didn't know that you ran away because you were thirsty. Oh, you might be so tired. Moshe took the lamb on his shoulders and carried it back to the flock. Said God, Moshe, you are compassionate. Your compassionate extends to every animal in the flock. You should also care for my flock, the children of Israel. Moses is a small lamb. Ah, interesting. Very interesting, Luis. Never thought about that. Yeah, but this is the Midrash, what God said to Moses. Actually, I should say it like this. Listen to this. God said to Moses, Moshe, you are compassionate. Right? I should say it like that, with a little echo. It sounds more like the voice of God. Yeah, I think. That's the way, at least, the movies have pushed us to imagine the voice of God. God is always a baritone with lots of echo on his voice. Yeah, I usually use it just for singing, but sometimes when I use it for talking, it's kind of funny, the reverb. Yeah. So let's continue. There's a beautiful commentary here for another rabbi, Rabbi Mordechai Kamenetsky, that he says, the Torah links Moshe's selection to divine leadership with the simple task of shepherding. Right? And somebody mentioned before that King David, the same thing. He was a shepherd. The qualifications that God wants are not necessarily what humans perceive. This is so profound. We often look for honors, accolades, achievements, and accomplishments that are almost superhuman. God, on the other hand, cherishes simple shepherding. He loves care and concern for simple Jews. We may come to him with a life of brilliance, courage, and valor, but he does not need that. He wants consistency, love, compassion, and perhaps most of all, humble simplicity. Moshe had those qualities too. It was those qualities of compassion, not the forceful quality of attacking the Egyptian taskmaster, not fending off evil shepherds, not chastising combative Hebrews that were chosen to cast Moshe into the light of leadership. We may be bold and courageous, but without compassion for the little things, without the humility to find lost sheep, we may be simply overqualified. Oh, this is brilliant. That sometimes what we think that is the great qualities, it's an overqualification for what God needs. And I understand sometimes those things are what other people look for. And then sometimes people fail and we don't understand why. Why would this person fail with all the qualifications? Well, because he didn't have all the other things that they are necessary to be a good leader. You need consistency, love, compassion, simplicity, modesty. Great things that they have to be in this recipe for success. So let's go back to the chat. Let's see what you guys have to say here. Shelley says, if Hashem had a squeaky voice, no one will take him seriously. Yes, we actually don't know. Maybe sounding like a woman. Who knows? God's voice is described as LOL demand, LOL demand. I don't understand, Jerome, what I was trying to say. Type it again. Okay. So, and remember when God chose Moses to be the one, Moses didn't want to take it. He didn't believe in himself. That was something that he didn't have. Moses was sometimes humility is a good thing, but if you take humility too much to the extreme, then it's not humility anymore. It's low self-esteem. Humility is healthy. Self-esteem is low self-esteem is not. You need to be aware of your talents. In fact, it will your success in this world, if you believe in such thing of divine destiny, it will depend on you being aware of what you can do so you can do it properly. Or if there is something else that you need, you will be aware that you lack on that and you will take training to get it into your life because it's necessary to fulfill your goal. But that starts with being able to realize that we are good for certain things. If you said, no, I don't want to go there because otherwise I won't be humble. Well, that's not being humble. That's having low self-esteem. God actually taught a lesson to Moses here. And Moses is described as the most humble person in history. Nobody will be more humble than Moses in history according to the Torah. But nevertheless, at the beginning, he was taking this too much to the extreme. So now we are not talking about modesty anymore. We are talking about low self-esteem. And God is going to teach Moses a lesson to say, look, you can do this because it is on you. And if there is certain things that you don't have, don't worry. Because if I'm putting you in that situation, I'm going to send you the help you need. Otherwise, I will never put you there. And Moses said, but I cannot talk. Don't worry. Aaron, your brother, is going to be the one doing all the talking. I won't ask you that. I won't ask that from you. It's an amazing concept to know that if you know that you're in the right path, but you feel that there's something that is missing, you have to have faith that if God put you there, you're going to have what you need. Otherwise, either you are in the wrong place or you are not aware of the things that God's sending your way. Jerome, going back to you, let's see. You said the voice of God. Oh, okay. The voice of God is described as called the mama, like a little voice. Yeah, like a tiny little voice. Yes, I understand what you're saying. And Debbie, you said it is interesting that Moses had 10 names, but the Torah uses Moses, the name that Pharaoh's daughter chose for him because he was also kind in taking him from the water. Okay, 10 names of Moses. I don't think I've ever read those. I always thought that, but it's probably another midrash. Thank you for bringing that. So let's continue with the next verse. So Moses says to God, O Adonai, I am not a man of words, also not since yesterday, not since the day before yesterday, not since you first spoke to your servant, for I am heavy of mouth and heavy of speech. Right? It's Moses, again, not being aware of this principle that we should be aware, that if God is calling you to do something, you shouldn't worry what you don't have. Because that means that when you need it, you're going to have it. God is asking you to do it. So God wouldn't ask you to do something without providing you with the tools to be successful to do that. And God said to Moses, He will say to Moses eventually, don't worry, I know you're not good with words. You don't have to tell me. I created you. So you don't have to do that. Aaron will be the one talking to Pharaoh. Debbie Pollack, I guess he burned his tongue with the hot coals and stutter. Oh, that's another interpretation. Yes, that he had a stutter, and there is a midrash saying that because there was a test that somebody put in front of Moses, hot coals and gold, and Moses chose the cold and he put it in his mouth and he burned his tongue. That's why he has his stutter as an adult, and that he wasn't good with words. That's its one midrash. But then if you keep reading the Torah all the way and you go to the book of Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy is one long speech that Moses gave to the people of Israel before he died. Aaron was already dead by then. So it's not Aaron talking to the Israelites anymore. Now it's Moses. And it's not even God telling Moses what to say. It's Moses. Eventually, I guess he learned how to speak. Or we can say also that when in this text, when Moses is telling God, sorry, I'm not good with words, what he's saying is, I'm not a politician. And you know that when you there are people that they are very good with words, but they're terrible politicians. When they have to choose specific words so you won't be politically incorrect, so you won't offend the other person, then I would say, no, you know what? I'm not for that. And I could understand. Moses said, I'm not a man of words, in the sense I'm not somebody who will be good at talking to Pharaoh. I don't do that. I have no filter. I am the one that if I see an Egyptian beating a slave, I go and kill the Egyptian, right? So do you think that I'm going to stop myself from offending Pharaoh? God, come on. You know me. I'm not like that. So that's what God says eventually. Don't worry. You won't talk to Pharaoh. Aaron will do the talking. He's better than you as a politician. But eventually, the same principle in the book of Deuteronomy, when God talks to the people of Israel, there is no filter. He doesn't have to be a politician. Now he says what he wants to say. And I can imagine people actually being offended for some of the things that Moses said to the Israelites there. He cursed them. He warned them in a very harsh way for things that are going to happen. And you will say, good for you, Moses, that you have the guts to say that. And Moses said, yeah, I'm not playing politics here. I'm just being honest. But he couldn't do that with Pharaoh. He couldn't. He didn't have on him. He wasn't a politician. Yeah, and Debbie, you say Pharaoh was his stepfather. He needed to respect him. I think this is by now this is a different one. That Pharaoh died, and then he came another one after. But Moses probably know the guy and said that he will be offended for nothing, so he didn't want to go say it. Now, it looks like this process of God convincing Moses that he was qualified to do this task wasn't an easy one. It wasn't easy for God to convince Moses. Why Rashi is expanding on, you see, let's go back here, that he says, I'm not a man of words, also not since yesterday, not since the day before yesterday. right? And Rashi is taking it literally. And said the wording of this verse teaches that the Holy One, blessed is He, spent a full 7 days persuading Moses at the thorn bush to undertake his mission. And all this reluctance on the part of Moshe was because he did not want to assume superiority over his brother Aaron, who was older than Moshe and already a prophet. So once again, it's portraying Moses as a very humble person, but it's also the fact that convincing somebody that he or she has a talent that they cannot see is an extremely difficult task. Took God 7 days to convince Moses that it was okay for him to do it. For God, it took 7 days. What can we expect? If you try to convince somebody, to encourage somebody, to speak faith into somebody, so they will believe in themselves. Of course it's not easy. Of course it's not easy, but it's important sometimes. It's important to help each other to fulfill our destinies. It's great when somebody can tell us what they can see that we cannot see. But it's also good for us to do it with other people to return the favor. So let's go back here to the chat. And Debbie, you said, I think they convinced Moses that Aaron was happy just being a priest. It will be okay, not competitive. Yeah. Yeah. It's, yes. Let's continue. Yeah. This is, Debbie, what you were saying. So as a response, God says, at this Adonai anger blazed up against Moses. He said, don't you have a brother, Aaron the Levi? I know that he's a good speaker. In fact, he's here now, coming out to meet you, and he'll be happy to see you. And Rashi said, and he will see you, and he will rejoice in his heart. He's not as you think, Moshe, that he will resent you because you're ascending to greatness. Yeah, I know that sometimes we think that that's human nature, that we are jealous because somebody else has more than we do or is more important than we are. But that's not what is expected from us. Yeah, that's people, but not everybody is like that. Now, you have to remember when you read this, like even if you say that Moses was familiar with all the stories of the Israelites in previous generations, and you will see that it was always in the Bible, these stories of jealousies and competitions between the youngest and the firstborn. This thing that because of the firstborn has more rights at the time of inheritance and things, that it was always this tension between the firstborn and the rest of the family. And the firstborn has to be the one honored. And yeah, but that might be true at the time of inheritance. But if you read closely in the Torah, the firstborn is never the chosen one. It's a fact. Doesn't matter if you're a firstborn. When God wants to choose somebody, it's based on qualifications, not based on when you were born or where you were born. It's based on how good you will be to fulfill that task. So Moses heard, and probably maybe he saw it in palace, how everybody was competing with the firstborn, and nobody could be greater than the firstborn. But nevertheless, God is telling Moses, it doesn't have to be that way. And Aaron will be the proof to that. He's older than you, but he will be happy that you will achieve a kind of greatness that he will never achieve. But he will be happy for you. So my question for you, my dear students, is can you be happy for someone else that has more than you, or achieved more than you, or is in a position that is better than you? When the answer is, if you get inspired by this, is if you are not, you have to find a way to be happy for somebody else. Because each one of us has our own race. We shouldn't be competing. It's like, let's talk about racing a car, for example, right? Can you compare a Formula One car with an SUV, which one is better? An F1 or an SUV? You tell me in the chat, which one is better? And the answer is depends. Depends. If you're in a racing track, the F1 will be better. The SUV will be, it will be embarrassing trying to make them compete. But if you put them outside in the winter in Winnipeg and go for a ride, the SUV will be way better. The F1 won't even be able to leave the driveway because of the snow and because they are so low. So it depends. So an SUV shouldn't be jealous of a Formula One, and vice versa. Formula One shouldn't be jealous of the SUV because they were created for different tasks. So you should discover what's your task, and you should be happy and focused on that task instead of looking to the side and being jealous for somebody else's task. Yeah. And yeah, and Andrea, you said you can't put a family in an F1 car. Of course not. Yeah, and I remember I had this conversation with my father, Alava Shalom, once. He took me to the racing cars, and I said, "Whoa, I want that car." And he told me, "Are you crazy?" He said, "Have you seen the streets here in Buenos Aires with all the potholes and everything? You won't last a minute on that car. So, you can enjoy them when you come to the race car, but it's not for city driving." So my father taught me a lesson there. You can't win a race with an SUV. Depends. If the race is in the snow, you can't. Everything depends. Everything depends on the circumstances. Yeah. And yeah. And I want to say one more thing to you. One more thing that is from this Parasha. And I think I mentioned it previously in the previous Parasha. And it's this comment here. When God said to Moses at the burning bush, I said, "Don't come any closer. Take your sandals off your feet, because the place where you're standing is holy ground." So the question is, why did God ask Moses to remove his sandals? What is it that is holy ground, and what is the problem to enter to holy ground with sandals, right? And just a quick teaching of this, that the rabbis explain that is coming from this verse in the book of Genesis. Remember that Adam and Eve were cursed by God, and God was very angry because they ate from the forbidden fruit. No, but it says, to Adam he said, God said, "Because you listened to what your wife has said and ate from the tree about which I gave you order, you are not to eat from it. The ground is cursed on your account. You will work hard to eat from it as long as you live." So, you see what happened here? God said to Moses, "The ground is cursed." Okay? So that means that every day when we walk with our shoes, the ground, everything that is outside our homes, is cursed ground. It's in the book of Genesis. So basically everything that the sole of our shoes touches when we walk outside is cursed ground. And that's why sometimes we believe that we wear shoes not just for comfort, because it's a layer of separation between ourselves and the cursed ground, but because Moses was entering on holy ground, God said to Moses, "Remove those stinky shoes that touched cursed ground. Leave them outside, because this is a holy place, so you can walk barefoot with no problems." So that is an explanation of why we wear shoes and why God asked Moses to remove it before approaching the burning bush, because it was holy ground. Okay. So this is the end. This concludes the class for today. If you have any more questions, any more comments, David Pollack, you said in the temple they don't wear shoes, but for the same reason, because the temple was holy ground. The Karaite Jews do the same thing with their synagogues, that they ask people to remove their shoes outside, and Muslims do the same. But for us, I guess it was a difference. When synagogues were built, they're not necessarily holy ground. It's because a synagogue is not a temple, so we wear shoes when we enter to our synagogues. Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. Please remember, you can also always like the video, leave a comment, share it if you have some social media pages, and subscribe to our channel so you will receive all the information every time. You will be notified every time we go live or every time we upload something to the net, to our channels. So thank you for being there. Stay safe. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And God bless you. Hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.